अस्सलामुअलैकुम, दिस इज़ हसनैन वरैच और मैं आज लंदन के उस इलाके में हूँ जिसमें मैं रहता हूँ। एनीवेज, अस्सलाम वालेकुम जनाब, थोड़ा सा लेट हो गया हूँ लेकिन कोई नहीं, कर लेते हैं आगे अंग्रेज़ी में ताकि सारों को वीडियो समझ आए। Alright, so the purpose of the video is to give you a brief overview of the 2025 crisis situation between Pakistan and India, a crisis that arguably brought two nuclear powers, the closest they've ever been to an all-out nuclear war. I understand how many of you might think that I'm perhaps a bit delayed in uploading a video on the topic, and you might be right. But I believe it could be especially valuable for a student of history who might want to look back at the 2025 crisis between the two nuclear belligerents. Rather than going through hours and hours of podcasts, press briefings, interviews, which to be honest you should do to gather a more nuanced and holistic understanding of the topic, but for a cursory understanding, I believe that this video will suffice. So what happened? On 22nd April, Pahalgam, specifically the Baisaran Meadows, a region in what Pakistan claims to be Indian illegally occupied Kashmir, but for the purposes of impartiality I'm going to call the disputed territory, gets attacked by terrorists. In the event, 25 Indians and one Nepali citizen are brutally murdered. The incident is dubbed the worst attack of its kind in a quarter of a century, and for the disputed territory, it quite possibly is. For context, in 1995, 6 foreign tourists were abducted, only one able to escape. The location of the rest is unknown. In 2000, 32 people killed, of which 21 were Hindu pilgrims. Just 1 year later, 13 people near Sheshnak Lake are killed. In 2017, 8 pilgrims in Anantnag. And in 2025, Pahalgam. The resistance force claims the responsibility for the attack, linking the cause to India's unilateral abrogation of Article 370, stripping the region of Kashmir of its autonomy and splitting the former state into 2 union territories, asserting a more federal control. Now what is TRF? I mean, we've heard of Jamaat-ud-Dawa, Lashkar-e-Taiba, but what's this obscure organization, something which quite possibly, for a lot of analysts of the region, surfaced after their proclamation for the responsibility of the attacks? Allegedly, it's an offshoot of Lashkar-e-Taiba, a proscribed terror organization based in Pakistan. Now, after the attack, India, in its vengeful spirit, wants to hold those responsible for the attack and their abettors accountable, and rightly so. However, as the motives might be justifiable, what follows is rather questionable. Initially, India proceeds with detaining people suspected of supporting secessionist groups and movements, expels Pakistanis living in India. Kashmir cities across India report sexual harassment, physical assault, and threats to leave. Diplomatically, India responds by suspending the Indus Water Treaty 1960, a framework that survived 3 major wars between the two countries. It closes Wagah border, cancels visas given under SARC scheme, and gives holders 48 hours to exit India. Pakistani military, air and naval advisor and high commissioner are given a week to leave India, and India pullbacks its own counterparts. Staff in the High Commission is reduced from 55 to 30. It is important to note that India does this without producing any evidence of Pakistan's involvement in the attack. One could argue that even though it is not justifiable, it's still rather understandable because India leaves room for diplomatically toning things down and at the very same time sends a very assertive message across to Pakistan. However, India ups the ante on May 6th. In the lull of the night, India attacks 9 sites across Pakistan-held Kashmir and mainland Pakistan in Punjab, and the cities of Bahawalpur and Sialkot. The nature of the attack constitutes the use of standoff weapons launched possibly from Indian Air Force from well within the Indian airspace. No breach of line of control takes place. Delhi claims that it targeted terrorist infrastructure and claims that its attacks were measured, non-escalatory, proportionate, and responsible, focused on dismantling the terrorist infrastructure and disabling terrorists likely to be sent across to India. Apparently, India had intelligence reports suggesting imminent terrorist attacks, and Operation Sindoor is carried out to deter and preempt. As a result of the initial strikes, more than 30 civilians die and 50 more are injured. After the initial strike, the Indian DGMO tries to communicate to his counterpart in Pakistan of their compulsion to strike at the heart of terror. However, his request is brassly turned down, followed by an intimation that a severe attack is inevitable and in the offing. These are not my words, these are words of the Indian DGMO himself. And shortly after, Pakistan follows. Pakistan responds and claims to have engaged and neutralized several military posts, military headquarters across the working boundary in the line of control, and the Air Force claims to have shot down 5 Indian jets, including 3 Rafales. In the following days of May 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th, both countries continued to climb up the rungs of the escalation ladder, targeting each other's military bases with not just standoff missiles and drones, but also nuclear-capable ballistic missiles. Mind you that this is the first such instance of missile usage at each other's military headquarters and military bases and air force bases between the two countries, and perhaps also between 2 nuclear weapon states. Both sides claim to have inflicted significant damage. For instance, India claims to have struck radar installations in Lahore and Gujranwala, SAM sites in Malir Kent, command and control centers, air defense systems, and other military infrastructure. India also claims to have hit Chaklala, Rafiki, Rahim Yar Khan, Sakhar, Sargoda, Balari, Jacobabad air bases, C2 centers at Muridke, Rahim Yar Khan, radar at Chunia and Rahim Yar Khan in Sakhar. And on the other hand, Pakistan claims to have attacked Indian Air Force bases at Suratkar, Sirsa, Bhuj, Bhatinda, Nalia, Adampur, Halwara, Srinagar, Jammu, Udhampur, Mamoon, Ambala, Pathankot, and BrahMos storage facility at Beas and Nagrota, S400 battery system at Adampur and Poonch, supply depot at Uri and Poonch, and command headquarters. Both sides make tall claims, but the international media is only able to independently verify claims of damage to hangar in Jacobabad Air Base, runway damage in a couple of air bases in Pakistan, possibly also command center in Noor Khan Air Base. And it also confirms the downing of a Rafale jet. Thankfully, due to international mediation, the conflict comes to a close. The US, supposedly after receiving alarming intelligence reports, rushes in to negotiate a cessation. However, the conflict leaves with resounding implications for the strategic stability of the region, and perhaps even profound impact on the future of warfare in the region. Hopefully in the next video we're going to discuss the military consequences of the crisis, foreign policy implications, and what, in broad strokes, it means for the region's stability in the future. Thank you.